about hope, about Easter, and about Jesus. This is a blessing. And being among friends, because everyone here is a good friend, and we have opportunity to be together in other occasions. And it's really good to be here. So the first thing I need to say is thank you for the opportunity to be here. Okay. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. This prayer is so beautiful and so complete that you can have a study for each part of the prayer. We can have separate studies. And today we chose hope. Hope, that's something we all need to have inside of ourselves and makes the difference in our life. And the good thing about hope is that if you don't have this strong enough inside of us, we still have the possibility to build this inside of ourselves. You have tools to make hope stronger in ourselves. And Easter, that's the message you have for Easter, hope. And we brought this little video that's because you have studied hope, so you don't get stressed when the video doesn't work. But the video, I think you remember, it's a long time ago, there was a commercial from McDonald's. We're not going to talk about the product, but the video was showing kids playing with the boxes of Happy Meal, and they will talk, and the narrator says, this box has hope. And then the kids was open the boxes and looking, where is the hope? I don't see any hope. Where can you find the hope? And then they turn the box down, move the box, and the hope doesn't appear. And this commercial was in my mind for a long time because it's so sweet. And in some way, many times we act like these kids because we are looking for hope in a different place that you're supposed to look for, or you don't see when it's in front of our eyes. And this commercial is there. And you have a chance to go in YouTube, skip the commercial, and go direct to the video. And you're going to see how cute it is and how it is simple, but it's going to stay in our mind and remind us that hope is there even when you're able to see it. And then the question that comes to us, how we see hope? Where are you looking for hope? Is Spiritism bring us hope? The message that you hear all the time, give us hope for a better life? We have this from the Gospel. Spiritism fulfills what Jesus said of the promised counselor by bringing men knowledge about where he come from, why he is on earth, and where he is going to, therefore, by leading mankind towards the true principles of God's law, and by offering consolation through faith and hope. If you look any book, any message in the gospel, we always gonna find hope. And what we want to bring today, and our intention in the end of the study, is that you, when you live here, we are sure that you can build a hope inside of ourselves. Hope is a powerful therapy. Joanna de Angelis talked a lot about this. And we have all the reasons to be hopeful. Even if we are stuck in this hotel not so good, we have all the reasons to be hopeful because you're going to be there for a little time. We're going to progress. So let's do the best you have in this time, like Susanna said, to have a better future. So continue. Most of us always heard about hope as something religious or something that comes only for the spiritual side. And many people ask, hope is something concrete, so it's so abstract that it's like the boxes that the kids were looking at. And but since the 70s, the scientists, the psychologists start studying hope. And in the 90s, the two very important psychologists in this area, Dr. Knight, brought to us the theory of hope. So he gives us like a process how we can build the hope in ourselves. And you're going to see little by little how has everything to do with the messages we get here in the center when we study Spiritism here with our books. All the messages has everything to do with this. This just, they gave us the process how to build this, and we're going to see clearly when you open our gospel and you say, yes, Jesus is saying this to us for a long time ago, but maybe with this study I can see clearly. So we brought 3 definitions for hope. And the first one has to be from Joana de Angelis. And I think it's a little small. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. In spite of the dark clouds of your sky forecasting a big storm soon, wait. The storm, perhaps it arises, perhaps it does not. The sky may clear along the day. Although a bitter solitude makes you suffer pains, and no longer can you take the slow and silent agony, wait. Tomorrow it is possible that a friend's arms will be involving you, and the velvet voice will sing in your ear gentle song. Even when all conspire against your good purpose, threatening your plans, wait. There are surprises, there are divine interferences modifying human lives, changing directions which were once considered correct. Although your present moment make you experience reproach and disregard, wait. The truth comes after the calamity of the hoax to demonstrate the greatness of its strength, renewing concepts. It's coming from a little book called Life Invitations. It's from Divaldo Franco. And it's so good to hear, because when she says that the storm come, may not come, make us remember that many times we suffer for something that we don't even know if it's going to happen. We get in despair because we have maybe something will happen. This despair change our day, change our thoughts, and doesn't bring anything good to us. Instead, we have hope. Okay, maybe the clouds will bring a hurricane. But still, I have the hope that after the hurricane, a lot of things good will come. Because something will change. My perspective of life will change. My faith will be bigger because I went through this difficult time. So many times we just have a wrong direction of our thoughts. And we keep the fear, or because it's something most of the time we are facing things that you don't know very well. And it gives us anxiety. And this can turn in a despair. But there is reason always to have hope. And she continues talking about the wait. And the wait is necessary because everything has its own time to be completed. Everything like a fruit. If you get the fruit before its time, it's not going to be good. It's going to be hard. It's going to be bitter. And if you look this way, looking for the nature, we're going to have the exact size of the weight we need to have. Because maybe if you don't have this perspective looking at the nature, we take a risk to wait too long. And then instead, this way to give us the right time to reflect and to learn, you're going to be lazy. and you're going to be wasting time. So the time that you need to wait has to be a product time. Not to just live there, okay, I'm going to wait, come from the sky. It doesn't work like that. We need to always be acting towards for what we want to conquer. And the wait is necessary, but in the right amount of time. Another definition comes from Dr. Snyder, and then he says the concept of hope involves the realization that we can achieve goals or desired results. We can say that the greatest contribution of Snyder's hope theory is to highlighting the cognitive aspect that is focused on the process of beliefs and thoughts involved in hope. If there is a will, there is a hope. We also heard this before in the Spirit's book. When the Spirit says to us that we can do whatever we want to do if you focus on that. Of course, you gotta be careful with this, because it's always good to get, okay, I wanna get this, but I wanna make sure that what I want to have is good for me and it's for good who is around of me. Because of course, I like to remember always Paul's teachings when he says we can have everything we want, but not everything is good for us. I'm sure he didn't use these exact words, but that's how I get his teachings. And it's true. We can get anything, but it's always good to have this thought before or towards to God. I wanted this. This is going to be good for me. It's going to be good for people around me. It's going to be beneficiary for the place where I live or the place where I go. If it is good, if it's real, we're going to get it. Don't worry. If it's not good, don't complain. Let's think, if I didn't get this yet, maybe it's not good, maybe it's not a good time, maybe I need to wait. So I keep hopeful that one day this thing I want to get it is going to be there. If it doesn't come in this life, maybe come in the next life, when I'm ready to have what I desire. Because sometimes you have a big, no, you want something so big, but maybe you're not prepared yet. So let's give the right time to things to come to us. Of course, you're not going to be, okay, I desire this and I'm going to wait for the right time and then do nothing because the time will come to me. But until the time brings to me, I'm going to be working, I'm going to be studying, I'm going to be learning something else for when the thing I want to comes, I'll be ready for it. The next definition comes from Dr. Shane Lopez. Hope is the belief that the future will be better than present, along with the belief that you have the power to make it so. I love this, and this paragraph says exactly what we see in this dramatic week when Jesus, the Passion of Christ and the crucifixion. It's exactly this, because most of the movies like to show the bloody part of this week. But what we learn is that after this tragic moment, how many lessons we got. Everything changing after this moment. So hope is this. That's the belief after this difficult time, we're going to have a better time. We're going to be stronger because we heard that before. When after a difficult time, we learn something. If you have the patience to look the moment, to look for the lessons in the difficult moments. So when you look this dramatic week that most of the time in the past people like to focus on the suffering, in the pain of Jesus, let's look for the lessons. I was listening to Valdo explain about Easter, and he was saying one wonderful lesson was our testimony most of the time happens when you have to go at this difficult time. Most of the time you're going to be alone, because Jesus asked for the disciples pray with him, and they fall asleep. He was betrayed by a friend, and one of the most important moments, Pedro denied knowing him. Peter, I'm sorry. But that's the lesson we need to have in mind. Let's forget the other so bloody moments. It's not important. The important is what was left there for us to learn. And that's why when we think about Easter, we need to think about hope. Because when this difficult time passes, we're going to have in ourselves the strength, the love, and the faith much bigger than before. So, putting together the definition of hope, you can remember that Jesus said this was much before. You can do what I do and more, and even more. So we have the power to change our lives for better. We have the power to be tomorrow better than we are today. We just need to plan how to do that and work towards to this. Before we go into the process, let's remind ourselves the contribution to our well-being, hope, how hope can help in that. Hopeful people have more self-esteem, take better care of the body, and have a higher tolerance to pain. They did a test with people that were hopeful, and they bring to them a bucket with ice, and the people who were hopeful, they took longer time with their hands inside of the bucket. And they explain that people who are hopeful, they know, they are sure that this difficult time is going to pass fast. So they have more resistance or resilience. That's why in this test showed that the hopeful people took long time with their hands inside of the bucket. No, don't need to do that, okay? Don't need to do that. You're going to stay longer with me here, so it's going to show how you are hopeful. Have more confidence in others and on themselves, and they are motivated and optimistic. If you know if the future is going to be better, of course you're going to be more enthusiastic for life. Of course you're going to take care of our body better. We're going to change the way we eat. You're going to take care of everything around of us, because the future is waiting for us, and you want to be good when the future comes. You want to be healthy, in peace, and you're going to work on this. So when we think that our enthusiasm, we are less motivated, let's work on this, and let's make our hope comes back, be strong, and continue working for our better future. Because our better future is going to be 5 minutes from here. So if you're okay now, in 5 minutes it's going to be even better. So what's the difference between wish and hope? Okay, I wish to lose 20 pounds. I've been wishing this for 3 years, but I didn't do anything about it, so I still have this 20 pounds on me. But when I decide to hope to lose the 20 pounds, I'm gonna change the way I eat. I'm gonna go to the gym more frequently, and then I'm gonna lose the 20 pounds. So that's the difference. Most of the time we wish things, we don't hope for things. When we decide to hope and change, we're gonna find what you wanna do, how you're gonna do, and we're gonna be there, strong and acting towards what we wanna conquer. So when you have this in mind, every time you say, I wish something, we're going to change I wish or I hope for. And there is a story. It's a little story about faith, hope, and love. Because hope doesn't exist without faith and without love. It's going to be too small. And there was one day, walking on the road, there was faith, hope, and love. They were walking there thinking and trying to find the better way they could serve God. They have done their things, but they want to do better for God. And then when they were in the corner there, they saw a man asking for food, asking for money, a man begging there. And the man was paralyzed, and they couldn't do too much. And Faith looked at the man and said, "Don't worry, I'll go there. I'll take care of this." And Faith put inside of his heart the strength he needed to change the situation. And the man felt something different inside of himself and decided to move and decided to do something. And he decided to get up. And he was able to walk. He felt a happiness that he never felt before. And then he decided to jump from one side to another and looking for something and saying, thank, I can walk, I can walk. And then he was there from one side to another, testing his legs, and he's very happy. Okay, now I can walk. Now I can do something different. And then he looked one side, and looked the other side, and I said, okay, what am I going to do? I never did anything different before. I never had friends. I don't have a place to go. I don't know what to do because I never learned anything. So I'm going to stay here asking for money. I can walk, but I'm still going to be begging. And then hope came. No, let's do something for him. And hope came, walk with him to the top of the mountains. And then he could see the valley, and he could see the crops, he could see the farms. And he was so enthusiastic, the enthusiasm came in him and said, let's go down, and I'm going to find the work. He's so optimistic that he's going to get to work that he got the first day he was there. And then he started to work hard, every day, every week. And in a few months, he already had an amount of money. Let's remember, he never had anything before, so he was able to save. And in years, he already had his own farm. And he started continue working hard and harder, and he got it more and more. He became a rich man, very rich man. So he had health, he had money, he had work, he had friends. So he had everything. No, that's the way we feel when you have the car we want, the house we want, the job we want. That's how we feel. But time passed by and he starts feeling empty. Something was missing. He had so much, but what is missing inside of himself? He's asking himself, what do I have to do? He even feel embarrassed because how is good complaining? He came from the road to this very good position and he still feel empty. And then hope and faith keep looking at him and they start to get scared. We're going to lose this man. It cannot happen. It's going to be our fault also. What can you do for him? And then they decide to go back to love. Because remember, I didn't say. But when the hope and faith gave him all these things, they told to love, okay, you don't need to do anything else. You can go. He doesn't need anything. But when they start seeing him going down like that, they run after the love. And they ask love to help them. And love gave and put inside of this man's heart the real meaning of life. And brought to him the thoughts that he never had before. He started thinking about others. He started thinking that there is a lot of people that was like he was before, and he couldn't help them. And then his life changed completely. He started forgetting himself to help others. And then he never felt empty anymore. Because now he has a real reason to live. He continued working hard, but now part of his time was to help others. And that's how its hope has the strength. So you cannot just hope. You need to have faith, and you need to put love in everything you want to do. And Dr. Knight says this: faith is the building block of hope. It's like he was reading the gospel in the chapter 19 when you read, faith gives us the clarity of mind that lets us visualize our goals and the means of to attain it. Thus, people who have faith move forward with a sense of absolute security, whether it's defined here or in the above statements. Faith can help us accomplish great things. Isn't it the faith that helps you hope for the fulfillment of Lord's promises? How could you have such hope if faith doesn't exist? We cannot have a hope without faith, and you cannot faith without hope. They work together. They bring us the strength we need to overcome the obstacles that are the mountains. You cannot just say to the mountain, move from there, and the mountain is going to walk like we see in the picture. But it's going to give you our clarity to find solutions to overcome the obstacles. And then you're going to have what you're looking for. So the process we have to build the hope inside ourselves is this: 3 steps, only 3 steps. Let's decide what we want, because sometimes we get lost in so many things we want, we get overwhelmed, and you cannot focus on anything. Let's try to have few things that we are sure that's going to be good for us, it's going to be good for the persons that's around us, and it's going to contribute with our planets. Why not? Let's focus on a few things that you're going to be able to work toward to this. If you have 300 ideas, let's work 20 by 20. Maybe it's more effective. But for us to get there, we need to find the pathway to get there. How are we going to find the ways to do this? If I want to lose these 20 pounds that I promised next year when we meet at the seminar, I'm going to be 20 pounds less. But what I need to do? I need to change the way I eat. I need to go to the gym. If I want to speak Spanish, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to study Spanish. So I'm going to find the ways to get things. When you know what you want, we need to find how to get there. And be the agency. Agency is believing that you can instigate change. Believe in ourselves. Believe that you are able to do it. We have the tools. We just need to use them in the right way. The Spiritism gives us all the tools we need to live a better life. We have all these teachings in the books. We have the testimony of the spirits when they say, when we read the, how can I say cell and heaven and hell, we're going to see the testimony of the spirits when they say, when they discarnate and they look back, what they did and how they feel today. So that's real. It's not stories. It's real. That's that people who lived the way they lived and the way they discarnate was a result the way they lived. So they come and tell us how things happen. So we can use their examples to transformation ourselves, to use their lessons to move in a direction of God, of Jesus. Look for the light, have a better life. We can do every moment in our days. Every day when we wake up, we have another opportunity. And this is another lesson that you learn with Spiritism. Reincarnation is an opportunity to redo, to renew. Every day you have the same opportunity. What we did yesterday, we can change tomorrow, but we need to reflect on that. So, once again, we have all tools to have hope, to bring hope for our everyday life. This way, Spiritism gives its actual form to what Jesus said about the promised counselor. It enlightens us as to where we come from, where we are going, and why we are on earth. Furthermore, it reminds all of us to observe God's law and find comfort in faith and hope of a better future. This message is complete and brings us the enthusiasm we need. I think all of us had difficult moments in life. And we are here in this beautiful day feeling much better. So when you have faith and hope, you're going to see the difficult moments will come, but it will pass. And we're going to have another wonderful moment to live. If the difficult times come again, we're going to have more instruments to pass by through this difficult situation, because we are stronger, we have more hope, we have more faith, and we are much better. So if they come, you're going to be prepared for them. Soon we're going to hear Haroldo Dutra explain to us the meaning of Easter. But I love this picture, and I brought this picture from 1512. And what I like here is because it shows exactly the meaning of this Easter. Jesus is free. The freedom of the spirit, the freedom of the soul. What was left behind, not to look to people who accused us, who did bad to us, let's forgive them and keep going towards the light. And that's the biggest lesson we have in Easter. But, of course, Haroldo Dutra Dias speaks much better than me.
Repouso no judaísmo, mas que foram absorvidas pelo mundo cristão, pelo cristianismo, que depois, de certo modo, deturpadas e se transformaram na com seus coelhinhos, com seus ovos da Páscoa e com uma festa que quase não guarda nenhuma relação com a Páscoa genuína. O que é então a Páscoa? A Páscoa é uma celebração judaica do momento em que o povo foi libertado da escravidão no Egito. É importante salientar que quando nós falamos de Páscoa, nós estamos num universo que é o da religiosidade. Nós estamos no mundo religioso. E no universo da religiosidade, nós lidamos com símbolos, com metáforas. Por que isso? Porque religiosidade tem a ver com sentimento. E religiosidade tem a ver com uma experiência pessoal. Com a experiência que a criatura faz de Deus. Como ela experimenta Deus, como ela experimenta a vida, como ela experimenta a si mesma diante da vida e diante de Deus. É óbvio que é impossível traduzir uma experiência tão subjetiva, tão espiritualmente rica, com a linguagem da ciência, que é uma linguagem matemática, uma linguagem analítica, ou com a linguagem da filosofia, que é uma linguagem especulativa, cheia de um vocabulário complexo e às vezes até prolixo. Por essa razão, a religiosidade opta pela linguagem da metáfora, que é quase uma linguagem dos sonhos, uma linguagem onírica. E, portanto, a Páscoa tem muito dessa simbologia onírica do sonho. O que diz a Páscoa? Que o povo hebreu estava escravo há 400 anos no Egito. O Egito foi invadido então por um anjo da morte, mas naquelas casas que tivessem a marca de um sangue de um cordeiro, o anjo pularia aquela casa. Como o verbo pular em hebraico é pesar, daí vem Páscoa. A Páscoa então é o pulo do anjo, o pulo que ele dá nas casas que tem a marca do cordeiro e que portanto foram poupados da tragédia de perderem o filho mais velho da casa. Essa é a simbologia. Por que o cordeiro? Aqui é interessante. Na celebração da Páscoa judaica, o cordeiro ficava uma semana com a família. Eles pegavam o cordeirinho e ele ficava dentro de casa. Aí as crianças brincavam com o bichinho, criavam uma relação de afeto com ele. Daí uma semana, o animalzinho era quase que um membro da família. Então, ao entardecer da sexta-feira, toda a família se reunia e o animal era sacrificado. E tinha que ser assim, porque se alimentar do cordeiro da Páscoa precisava ser uma experiência de dor. É a experiência da perda de alguém amado. Então a Páscoa tem a ver com essa experiência espiritual. A experiência da libertação espiritual, mas que é uma experiência de desilusão. E você não se desilude sem perder. Por isso, esse choque do cordeirinho sendo imolado. Com a vinda de Jesus, o que ele faz? Ele convive com 3 anos com seus discípulos. Cura cegos, paralíticos, janta todo dia na casinha de Simão Pedro, cura até mesmo a sogra de Simão Pedro que morava com ele, trabalha com eles, acorda cedinho, vai pescar com eles até o entardecer, convive com eles diariamente, participa das suas dores, sofre as imperfeições de cada um deles e no momento final dos 3 anos reúne os 12 e diz assim para eles: vocês vão me perder. Eu estou agora me despedindo de vocês, porque eu vou deixar o mundo corpóreo para voltar ao mundo incorpóreo. E vocês vão experimentar uma tremenda tristeza, uma profunda dor, porque vocês criaram uma conexão emocional comigo. Eu não chamo vocês mais de servos, eu chamo vocês de amigos, porque tudo que eu aprendi, eu compartilhei com vocês. Eu amei vocês da maneira maior que eu poderia amar. Eu amei tanto que você, Pedro, vai me negar, vai me trair, mas eu continuo te amando e nada vai alterar o meu amor por você. Eu amo tanto você, Judas, que mesmo sabendo que você vai me trair, eu não estou te expulsando, eu estou comendo com você e eu te perdoo. Mas eu irei embora. E vocês vão viver a maior experiência de solidão e de ascensão espiritual das suas vidas. Mas o que eu posso prometer? Que do mundo espiritual estarei junto com vocês, vou ampará-los em todas as suas atividades e estarei eu mesmo do mundo espiritual comandando a expansão do cristianismo. Portanto, essa crise da morte é apenas um portal para a vez que vocês sentirem falta da minha amizade, do meu amor, da minha dedicação, da minha presença, vocês vão se reunir, vão celebrar a Páscoa em minha memória, em memória da minha amizade, em memória do meu amor e, sobretudo, em memória da libertação de que eu sou mensageiro, porque Jesus veio libertar o homem da escravidão da matéria, da escravidão dos sentidos. Egito, em hebraico, chama-se Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim, em hebraico, é estreiteza, prisão. A matéria é opressora. Os sentidos físicos são estreitos. A mensagem de Jesus é libertadora, que ela vem trazer um amor incondicional, um amor que ama independente dele. Portanto, é um amor que liberta. Então ele recomenda, reúnam-se, celebrem a Páscoa para celebrar o amor, para celebrar a minha dedicação e para celebrar a imortalidade da alma, a vida espiritual. Mas infelizmente, os séculos passaram e nós transformamos a Páscoa em coelhos e ovinhos coloridos de chocolate, apagando completamente a dimensão espiritual e a experiência religiosa que a Páscoa propõe, que é uma experiência de Deus, é uma experiência de solidão, é uma experiência de amar, de se sentir amado. Não importa as circunstâncias. Isso é a Páscoa.
So let's celebrate love.
Thank you, Teresa. We'll open now for any thoughts and comments.